It is time for everyone's favorite segment this week in Shohei Ohtani news, and I told you all he was back at the plate, and he is back. We're going to talk about his offense. We're going to talk about his pitching performance against a division rival, San Diego Padres, on Wednesday, how we got the full Shohei Ohtani experience in the first inning of that game, and we're going to talk about the fact that Shohei Ohtani was almost traded where? There was a big discussion Thursday morning about when he was with the Angels in 2023, a trade that was in serious talks of happening. I'm going to talk about all those details and everything that went into it and what should have happened and all that good stuff. But we're going to start with how Shohei Ohtani started at the plate on Wednesday against the San Diego Padres. So it was the first time in a long time that Shohei Ohtani was hitting in the same game that he was pitching. And he was still leading off. And how did he lead off the game? Well, he led off first pitch of the game with a home run. So first pitch of the game, homer, great start to the game. Just the second time in history that a pitcher has led off the game with a home run. And the first time it happened was in the NLCS Game 4 against the Milwaukee Brewers when Shohei Ohtani himself did it. So he continues to be in a category with himself, homered to lead off the game, giving himself his own offense, which has been an issue. Run support has been an issue when Shohei Ohtani is on the mound. Well, he took care of it himself and then took the mound and punched out two guys in the very first inning. So first inning of the game, Shohei homers and strikes out two guys, and then he is off and running on the mound. So we got the full Shohei Ohtani experience in the first inning. But then pitching, his pitching performance was, I would say, good. Not great, yet he still didn't give up a single run and lowered his ERA once again. And that is just how good Shohei Ohtani is. So it started in the first inning, got a couple of strikeouts, a 99-mile-an-hour fastball to end the first inning to strike out Gavin Sheets for his second strikeout. Didn't exactly have his best command. Ended up throwing a bunch of pitches in the first inning. 11 pitch at bat to Miguel Andujar, which ended in a strikeout on a sweeper. But look, if you only get 100 pitches in a game, throwing over 10% of those pitches to one batter in one inning isn't great. So 22 pitches in the first inning, but he does get out of it. Ends up with a couple of walks on the start. All in all, I would say good start, not his best, and ended up going 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, 88 pitches, and he did get a win on the mound. But the big situation came in the 5th inning. Obviously not his best, most dominant stuff on the mound, but he got himself into some trouble in the 5th inning. The bases get loaded. It's a tight ball game. He hadn't yet given up a run, but then all of a sudden walks the 9 batter to bring up Fernando Tatis Jr. with the bases loaded and only 1 out, and you think, oh man, this is going to define the game right here. Well, he got out of the bases loaded jam with a double play ball to Mookie Betts. They turn an incredible double play, and Shohei Ohtani shows more emotion right here than I have, I think, ever seen him show. We get some good emotion, especially when Shohei Ohtani is pitching, but to get out of this jam the way he did and to show the emotion that he did, this is more emotion than I have ever seen. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can see the double play. You can see the emotion from Shohei. This double play ball was unbelievable. I can't give enough credit to Mookie Betts as a defender at shortstop. To go from a Gold Glove right fielder to second base, to then move to shortstop and not be great defensively, and then turn himself into a Gold Glove finalist last year and another Gold Glove caliber defender at shortstop this year. I can't say enough good things. He puts in so much work to his craft at shortstop. And to be able to turn this double play, to go to your right and to make that throw and feed as quickly as he did, the sidearm feed perfectly to Ha-Seong Kim at second base, who makes a good turn to first base. It's just a perfectly executed double play, and you can see how much Shohei Ohtani appreciates that. He said, attaboy, Mook, attaboy. He's pumped up for Mookie Betts to make that double play. And it's the most pumped up I have seen Shohei Ohtani on the mound ever. And that is what ended his outing. So he ends up with 5 innings pitched, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, 88 pitches, and he did get a W on the mound because largely he got out of that inning in a big at-bat against Fernando Tatis Jr. It lowers his season ERA to 0.73. We are a third of a way through the season, which is crazy. We're just about 1/3 of the way through the Major League Baseball season, and Shohei Ohtani has a 0.73 ERA. Can you fathom that for 1 second? That's absolutely insane. And if it sounds remarkable, it is. The lowest ERA in the first 8 starts of a season in the live ball era. So since 1920. You have 1981 Fernando Valenzuela with a .50, 1980, then 2009 Zach Greinke a 0.60, 1945 you have Al Benton, 2021 Jacob deGrom at 0.71, and then there's Shohei Ohtani in 2026 with a 0.73 ERA through 8 starts. He's only given up a run in 2 of his 8 starts. 6 innings, 0 runs. 6 innings, 0 runs. 6 innings, 1 run. 6 innings, 0 runs. 6 innings, 1 run. 7 innings, 2 runs. 7 innings, 0 runs. 5 innings, 0 runs. So only giving up a run, even a run at all in 3 of his 8 starts, and they're mostly all dominant. And this start, another start with 0 earned runs. He did not have his best stuff on the mound and still found a way to get through it with 0 runs allowed in a big game against a division rival. He did also hit in the game, as I mentioned. He led off the game with a home run. And he's back at the plate. But it was really cool to see him finally back. It's been 4 starts or so since we've seen him at the plate while also pitching, which is what Shohei Ohtani was born to do, by the way. I know he's a pitcher. He views himself as a pitcher, but he also is a two-way player, and he loves to do that. So I was happy to see him back in the lineup. It's the 7th time in his career Shohei Ohtani had a scoreless start and hit a home run in the same game, and that's including the postseason. That breaks a tie all-time with Bob Gibson, who did it 6 times for the most such games since at least 1900. So Shohei Ohtani, once again, in a category by himself there. So led off the game with a homer, and he was off and running. Offensively, Shohei Ohtani has been fantastic lately. The Dodgers are in the midst of a 6-game road trip, including the game Wednesday against the Padres. That was the 6th game of their road trip. Shohei Ohtani has reached base 17 times in those 6 games, which is insane. A 478 batting average and almost a 1,500 OPS in the last week. So since this week in Shohei Ohtani news to now. Hit 478 with 1,500 OPS. When I said the man is out of the slump and the man is back offensively, and man, was that the correct thing to say? Because he is. First pitch homer. He had 13 hits in his last 24 at-bats after that home run. 7 extra base hits. It's the 5th time that Shohei Ohtani has hit the first pitch of the game for a home run. The rest of the franchise, since the turn of the century, has only done it 13 times. Shohei Ohtani has done it 5 times already. Mind you, this is the 3rd season. This is Shohei's 3rd season with the Dodgers. He has the 3rd most leadoff home runs in Dodgers history, tying Jock Peterson. Less than 2.5 years into his tenure with the Dodgers, he has the 3rd most leadoff home runs in franchise history, a franchise that goes back a long way. So 2nd is Davey Lopes, 1st is Mookie Betts, and he is chasing those guys down already. I have no doubts that he is going to accomplish and pass those guys, assuming he stays in the leadoff spot. So Shohei's back offensively, and look, he spoke about his offense during his tough stretch and said something pretty candid and forward that I thought was interesting. He said the hard thing isn't going from good to great. The hard thing is going from feeling broken to feeling okay. And that's pretty strong statement. And it's true. I was a hitter professionally for 5 years. I often felt broken at the plate. When you're going good, when you're going good, you're almost always about to go great. When you're going bad and you feel broken, it doesn't end. You constantly feel lost. So I get what he's saying. But Shohei feeling lost, well, one, he no longer does, but a lot of people seem upset with Shohei Ohtani's offense this season. He has a 400 on-base percentage and an 885 OPS on the season. A down year for Shohei Ohtani is a career year for 95% of the league. These aren't bad numbers. These are good numbers, and it's a down year, at least so far, for Shohei Ohtani. So he's back at the plate. His offense is rolling. After his start on the mound against the Padres, he did speak to the media, and I always love sharing his comments with you guys because we always do This Week in Shohei Ohtani News the day after he pitches. So on his pitching performance, he said there's a lot of uncertainty coming into this outing because the feel wasn't great. The results were good, but as you saw, the process wasn't great. So he was asked about that. What do you mean the feel wasn't great? And he said, just the overall feel. I have a pretty high standard in terms of performance, so it didn't really match. So you could see it. He didn't have his best stuff. He was a little bit erratic with his pitches. It wasn't quite as sharp, and he said he felt it before the game. It just didn't feel necessarily right, yet he still goes out and throws 5 scoreless innings. He was then asked about his emotion after the double play, which was incredible. I loved seeing that. He asked about his emotion, and he just said, I love the results. I walked the guy before, and that isn't what I wanted to do, but I love the results of the play. So great offensively over the past week. He is out of his slump, and now he's going great. He's going fantastic. As I always say, when Shohei's hitting homers to center field and to left center field, you know he is going at his best. He absolutely torched the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, his old team. They played on the road in that interleague matchup over the past weekend, and he torched them. A bunch of RBIs, bases loaded, bases clearing knock, a bases clearing double for Shohei Ohtani against the Angels. He had a couple RBI single, and then another at bat with the bases loaded. He hit down the right field line. This caused quite the stir online just because of the ruling of the play. But comes up, bunch of guys on base, hits a ball down the right field line, and it bounces up off of the net. So it hits in fair territory. The net extends all the way to the foul pole, hits in fair territory, and then it bounces up. It starts bouncing through foul territory and hits up off the net. So people automatically assume this is a ground rule double, but that is actually not the ground rules at the Angel Stadium. The ground rules state that the ball is live and in play if it bounces and hits that net. So he keeps running. Everybody's confused about the rules online. He ends up scoring on this play. Everyone is saying anything from this should be a ground rule double, this was an inside the park homer, or what it should have been, which was correctly ruled, a triple, and he scored on a throwing error, which is what happened. But he torched the Angels offensively. He torched the Padres offensively. He's rolling at the plate. He's continuing his Cy Young campaign on the mound. He's just been fantastic, a 0.73 ERA. And then on Thursday morning, right around the time I'm starting to get ready to record this, a little bit of old trade news comes about. And all of a sudden, there's some conversations out there of, wait. Shohei Ohtani was almost traded where? And it comes out that in 2023, the Angels were in serious talks with the Tampa Bay Rays to trade Shohei Ohtani to Tampa in exchange for Junior Caminero, a now superstar in the league, a 21-year-old phenom, and also Carson Williams and some other prospects. And in the end, Artie Moreno, owner of the Angels, ended up declining this trade, rejected it in exchange for trying to chase the playoffs. So instead, they added players like Lucas Giolito, who had a bad time with the Angels, and they wound up finishing 73 and 89. So the Angels, who I think everybody can agree, the Angels should have traded Shohei. right? They decided to go for it in 2023, and they were basically out of it at the trade deadline. And at that time, it's like, look, I get he's the greatest player of all time, but like, what? You're not going to make the playoffs, and you're going to lose him in free agency, so you might as well try and trade him. They didn't. So they wound up with nothing for Shohei Ohtani besides a compensatory draft pick, and then they lost him in free agency to the Los Angeles Dodgers. In fact, Shohei Ohtani went back to the Angels and said, if you can match this offer, I will sign with you. They wouldn't match the offer. They wouldn't trade Shohei. They didn't get Junior Caminero, who now, at 21 years old, hit 45 homers last year, is still 21 years old, and a phenom in this league. So instead of making a trade that was on the table to potentially turn the organization around, at least begin the process of turning the organization around, you don't do it. You try and make the playoffs with less than a 5% chance of making the playoffs, and it just fails miserably. And now these details are coming out that Shohei, the Rays tried to trade for him, which shouldn't really, I know it's a shocking realization, but Shohei Ohtani, the Rays were in on Shohei. I'd say they were probably the third most likely. They had the third best offer for Shohei. But just crazy to think about that trade. They were in serious talks, and Junior Caminero, who's a superstar in the league, was on the table. And it's hard to fathom this level of, look, there's a degree of saying, like, you have the greatest player ever and you have to, like, appreciate him trying to go for it. But you also have to understand you've had Shohei Ohtani for his entire career, paired with Mike Trout, one of the greatest baseball players ever, and it has never worked out. Shohei never once made the playoffs with the Angels. So all of a sudden, with less than a 5% chance to make the playoffs, you're going to go and make, like, mediocre moves to try and get the team. Like, I can understand the, like, we're really going to try and go for it. But also, it just feels like, from an organizational standpoint, it's an extreme failure to mess it up as bad as he did. It's tough to fathom. At that point, to not trade him the offseason before and then to be a bad team come the trade deadline, you might as well get something. And that something involved potentially Junior Caminero, who's a young phenom in the game of baseball at this point. So would Junior Caminero have been the same player with the Angels and their development and their process? Maybe not. But the writing has been on the wall that this kid is a stud. He's got all the tools. He's going to be a superstar in this league. He is now. So it's just, the Angels really, really messed up everything there was to do with Shohei Ohtani. The end of his tenure there, the adding around him and Trout to make the playoffs, it's a frustrating situation, and I can't believe they didn't get anything for him in return except losing him to your biggest rival down the street and him offering you to go back there for the same deal and you saying no. Unbelievable. Anyway, Shohei Ohtani is back. Offensively, he's back. He raked over the past week, and on the season, he lowers his ERA to 0.73 and continues his potential Cy Young campaign on the mound. He's just been unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we'll see what he does. Again, this week in Shohei Ohtani news happens every single week the day after he pitches. So be on the lookout for that. It will always come out around 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, and that is bright and early in Japan, which I believe it's like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning when it comes out over there. So be on the lookout for that every week. In a couple days, our John Smoltz episode will come out where the Hall of Famer joins us every single week. And every Monday is our big episode, Power Rankings, Team of the Week, and everything happening around the game of baseball. But everything happening right now is the greatest baseball player of all time is doing the greatest baseball player of all time thing. And that's only something that Shohei Ohtani can do. And that is dominate at the plate and dominate on the mound. And that is this week in Shohei Ohtani news. I appreciate you all for watching or listening. If you're not watching, check it out on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod. I can show highlights this year, everything he has done over the past week. I am showing him hitting, him pitching, So you can check everything out on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe. All that stuff really does help. I'll put it up right here. Please click this to like it and watch this episode as well. And get ready for this week and get ready for John Smoltz in a couple of days. But I appreciate you all for watching and listening as always. And that does it for this week in Shohei Ohtani news. Until next time, my friends, remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace.